Today's question is one that a lot of founders, myself included, are wrestling with, which is how do you optimize your content so LLMs are actually picking it up? In other words, SEO for LLMs. This space is, no surprise, evolving really quickly, and I want to be upfront that it's not an area where I have deep firsthand expertise. One of the promises of Dear Ben is that you'll always get a real answer. So when I'm not the person with the deepest expertise, I'll bring in someone who is. I reached out to my friend Chirag. He's the co-founder and CMO of Taco. It's an AI-driven SEO agency in New York. And he works with both high-growth startups and enterprise brands. And he's been thinking about LLM search long before the current hype cycle. I asked him to break it down into what's real, what's hype, and what's actually working right now. So without further ado, here's Chirag.
Hey, Henry, thanks for submitting your question. The way that we think about AI search is think of it as heavy overlap with traditional SEO, whereas traditional SEO does give you a lot of runway from an AEO perspective. Ultimately, the way that LLMs work is that whether you're using ChatGPT or Gemini or Perplexity, they are doing a Google or Bing search, right? And that's why ranking competitively on search engines in general is a really good approach. Continue to do SEO effectively. That'll help you incredibly on the AEO front. First step here is when you've determined your actual primary keywords, we want to turn those into questions. So say, for example, I'm selling shampoo, right? I'm specifically dandruff shampoo. What you want to do is take those queries, say dandruff shampoo, and turn those into questions. The dandruff shampoo is the primary keyword in traditional SEO. LLMs are going to be much longer queries. So we want to turn that into something like, what are the best dandruff shampoos for men, as an example? And I would come up with anywhere between 2 to 3 variations of these LLM prompts per primary keyword. You can use any tool that's out there. There's a number that we like: Scrunch, Aerops, there's Profound, the bunch that you can use and leverage. And what you can do after that is once you've actually updated your piece of content for this actual keyword, again, traditional SEO plays a big role here, backlinks, optimizations, fixing technical issues. The next 2 steps that we're noticing is going into citations that LLMs are pulling data from. So for example, for the search, what are the best dandruff shampoos? What I would do in this case is basically see where are the places that LLMs are pulling information from. So for example, you may notice that Reddit is a relevant source. You can see the specific Reddit threads that are being referenced. You may find third-party guest posts or listicles where the best shampoos are perhaps mentioned, like Men's Journal or Men's Health as an example, right? Could be examples of publications that may make sense. If you're in finance, you may see NerdWallet or Bankrate, right? If you're in healthcare, you may see Healthline, but you get the idea. Basically, it's going to be a combination of guest posts as well as some affiliate websites. And the idea here is that if you can do a combination of both identifying the right keywords, adding in those LLM prompts into a relevant tool to ultimately find out what are those citations, and then creating content on third-party sites like Reddit, as well as affiliate and guest posts, over time, you're going to see more and more traffic on the LLM side, which would basically your business or your brand being showing up for these actual queries. Now, I will say that, as you know, this is a bit of a moving target. This is what works really effectively today. There are shorter, spammier tactics that can work. My bet, very similar to traditional SEO, is that a lot of those are going to get plugged. But the general premise or approach that we've been taking with companies is this, and we've been seeing some really good results. So let me know if you have any questions. Hopefully that makes sense, and best of luck.
Thanks, Chirag. All right, so here's how I'd think about what Chirag's shared from a founder's perspective. First off, traditional SEO still matters. LLMs are basically running a web search behind the scenes. So if you don't rank in Google, you probably will not rank in ChatGPT either. I know there's some interesting exceptions, and I'll link to an interview in the show notes on Lenny's podcast. The second is the shift from keywords to questions, where LLMs surface content that directly answer natural language prompts, not short keyword fragments. And third is that models cite third-party sources. So it's not just about optimizing your own site. It's about showing up on Reddit, authoritative sites, and publications that are already showing up in the LLMs themselves in your current searches. We'll put the tools and the examples that Chirag had mentioned in the show notes if you want to go deeper.